Hey, future unnaturalists, I'm Emily.
And I'm Andy.
And we are the hosts of Unnatural, a true crime podcast.
Each week, we'll dive into some of the most unnerving crimes that this unnatural world has to offer.
Listen for Unnatural on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, make good choices.
And don't get got.
Bye.
Hi guys, I'm Didi West, and this is Broken Limelight.
And I'm Summer. I don't know. I thought you were
Sorry about that. Yeah, well, I know. You took too long. This is my friend Summer. You guys remember her. Thanks for being here again, Summer.
Of course.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. I want to say that I was conflicted when I named this episode because I originally wanted to call it Lewinsky Gate because there was all these different gates particularly associated with Bill Clinton, you know? But apparently Monica doesn't like those terms. She doesn't like Monica Gate or Lewinsky Gate because the media basically took her and made her the center of this case. And she just never was the kind of person who wanted to be the center of attention like that. So unfortunately, like she was, in her perspective, this like small piece of the puzzle that just kind of wandered into a situation and it all became about her. So anyway, I ended up calling it Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky because I can't just call it Bill Clinton or the Bill Clinton scandal and people know what I'm talking about, you know?
Right.
Unfortunately, that's not specific enough. So before we get started, let me tell you a few sources. First of all, I saw a lot of interviews with Monica Lewinsky. First of all, she did like a 2.5-hour interview with Barbara Walters. That was like soon after this all came out. And it was pretty specific. She also did interviews with Forbes 30 under 30 and TEDTalk. I have a few like news articles that I'll link on brokenlimelight.com as well. Also, this isn't a source, but if you guys watched American Crime Story on, what's it on, Hulu? HBO Max? One of those. It's a Ryan Murphy show. It's like American Horror Story, but these are the crime series. So he did the first season about O.J. Simpson and the second season about Gianni Versace, both of which I plan to cover. But the third season was called Impeachment, and it was released just last year. And what I found interesting was that Monica Lewinsky was actually a producer on this show. So they did a really good job at finding actors that really looked the part. But they also used like a crazy amount of prosthetics, like Bill Clinton's nose was like very accurate, you know? And Sarah Paulson is like in everything Ryan Murphy does, but she played Linda Tripp, which is a main character in this. And it's just like the transformation for her is incredible because you see her in like everything Ryan Murphy these days. And this one, I was straight up like, you can't even recognize her. Like if it weren't for her voice, I would have been like, who the fuck is that? But at the same time, you listen to recordings of Linda Tripp and they have very similar voices too.
Huh.
Yeah. So, for this episode, I'd like you to take everything that you know about the Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky scandal and just like put it aside and put a pin in it, because I'm going to tell you the whole story of what really happened from the very beginning. I'm also going to try really hard to speak in layman's terms, because if you guys are anything like me, you might like dissociate when you hear people talk politics.
Very much.
My ADHD brain just like has the hardest time keeping up. So I did my very best to like ask a lot of people questions and to clarify the meanings of things and to really figure it out. And I think that's one reason why impeachment was so interesting, because it's like watching Scandal, you know, they made this drama that you can watch happen right in front of you and it makes it all clear. But again, that is a fictional telling. So there's a lot of background to this, including like scandals that alleged scandals that go back to the 1970s with the Clintons. So let me start with this. Bill Clinton was born William Jefferson Clinton. He served as governor of Arkansas and then attorney general of Arkansas, and then he served as governor again.
He then served as U.S. president from 1993 to 2001.
He met his wife, Hillary Clinton. He met Hillary at Yale Law School, and they married in 1975. By the 1990s, the Clintons had been investigated for a number of charges, including Whitewater, of which allegations surfaced in 1992. Whitewater is kind of a long story, but in short, it's like the Clintons invested in some riverfront property with another couple, and they were going to like sell it as vacation lots. And it ended up being a total failure because there was like a lot of storms and the land flooded, and it just like didn't work out. But the big crime was what happened afterwards. And this was a lot of claims that people were like, oh, were the Clintons really involved or not? So basically what happened was the other couple that had invested in this had like misspent the loan money, and it was alleged that some of this money was used for Bill Clinton's campaign debts and this or that. So whether or not it's true is up in the air, but this is what leads us to Vince Foster and Ken Starr. So first, let's talk about Vince Foster. Vince Foster was a prominent Arkansas attorney in the 70s and 80s who lived across the street from Bill Clinton when they were very young, and he was later responsible for hiring Hillary Clinton at the Rose Law Firm. So when Bill Clinton became president, he wanted to bring some associates from Arkansas that he knew personally and was comfortable with into the White House, and he appointed Foster to be deputy White House counsel. What ended up happening was the Clintons ended up under investigation for a number of things. One of them was Whitewater. Another one was Travelgate.
And Travelgate was a whole nother thing where like 7 people got fired and it was just suspicious and this or that. But Vince Foster basically was under a lot of pressure because he was like the lawyer that had all their paperwork, and
who knows, who knows really what went on behind the scenes. But what we do know is that Vince Foster died on July 20th, 1993 of an apparent suicide. He died by gunshot. And from what I could find, his wife and his sister and his doctor all agreed that he was severely depressed. Like the day before he shot himself, or allegedly shot himself, because there's a lot of conspiracy theories, so I feel like I have to say allegedly. But the day before he shot himself, he actually talked to his doctor, and his doctor prescribed him, what's it called? Trazodone, I think. He prescribed him something for it, but you know what I mean? When it takes time for those things to build up, So it was just one day later that he apparently killed himself. However, because of the fact that the Clintons were under investigation, there have been rumors that he was actually killed.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just one piece of it. From what I gathered, apart from that, his death was thoroughly investigated. And his family and the doctor, again, didn't really disagree that it could have been a suicide. But then these allegations, this is a little unrelated, but these allegations kind of arose again in 2016 when Donald Trump was in office, because he implied that Vince Foster's death was sketchy and that maybe he knew too much. And that was probably a dig at Hillary during the election. So
right.
That's just a small side comment. I don't really want to get into that, but it's just interesting how things arise again when it's I don't know, convenient. Thank you. Obviously not that I know for sure Hillary didn't kill him, but
Right, exactly.
Anyway,
they did call
these
her
are all just
Hillary.
right. So this is all just background. Like I said, what we know for a fact is that Vince Foster is dead, and most agree that this was suicide. So then the next person who comes into this is Ken Starr. So Ken Starr was an independent counsel who was assigned to investigate Whitewater. In short, there were multiple investigations into Whitewater, and they all ultimately found that the Clintons didn't do anything criminal, but Ken Starr didn't end his investigation. So it seems like he thought the Clintons did do something criminal, and he had 3 potential witnesses, but they all ended up refusing to cooperate. And there was one that I can't remember for one reason or another, just like didn't show up or couldn't show up or something. But anyway, like it seems like he thought he had a case.
Right.
So Ken Starr investigation coincided with another big scandal that would also make the headlines in 1994 involving Bill Clinton. This started in January of 1994. So this is where the character Paula Jones comes into the story. So it started in January of 1994. This guy named David Brock released an article saying that Paula Jones had been assaulted by Bill Clinton. So then in May of that year, she decided to come forward with a lawsuit. Her claim stated that on May 8th, 1991, so 3 years prior, she was working as a state employee and she attended a conference where Bill Clinton was in attendance while he was governor of Arkansas. And Paula alleged that a state trooper asked her to report to Governor Clinton's hotel room. She didn't know what he wanted, but she just assumed it was work related. Like maybe he wanted to tell her good job or something. Did you hear my arm pop?
Yeah. And I've been watching that little fly around.
Oh, God. It's because of my plants.
So just to reiterate, the girl that he pulled over, who was she again? Was she just a person or?
Paula Jones. So she is just like a state employee. I can't remember for what department, but she was just like at a conference that he happened to be at too, because he was just the governor at the time. Hold on, I have the actual context here. Okay, so I'm going to read little excerpts from the declaration of Paula Jones. This was all in the Starr Report. It says, Paula Jones hereby declares under penalty of perjury as follows. My name is Paula Jones. I am the plaintiff in the lawsuit styled Paula Jones versus William Jefferson Clinton and Danny Ferguson. I was born and raised in Arkansas, blah, blah. On or about March 11th, 1991, I began working as an employee of the state of Arkansas, working for the Arkansas Industrial Development Commission, or the AIDC. On May 8, 1991, the AIDC sponsored the third annual Governor's Quality Conference. On that day, I worked at the registration desk at the conference. A man approached the registration desk and told Miss Blackard and me that he was a trooper, Danny Ferguson, Governor Clinton's bodyguard. He made small talk with Miss Blackard and me, during which he showed me that he was carrying a pistol. He then returned to Governor Clinton. Later that day, Trooper Ferguson came back to the registration desk and handed to me a piece of paper with a number written on it. Trooper Ferguson told me that the number was a suite number in the hotel and said to me that Governor would like to meet with me. I had never met or talked to Governor Clinton. The first time I had seen him in person was at the conference. Miss Blackard, Trooper Ferguson, and I then talked about what the governor could want. I thought it was an honor to be asked to meet the governor. Among other things, Trooper Ferguson stated, "We do this all the time." I decided to go meet Mr. Clinton. Miss Blackard told me that she would take over my duties at the registration desk. Trooper Ferguson then escorted me to the suite whose number had been written on the slip of paper he had handed to me earlier. When I arrived at the suite, the door was slightly ajar. I knocked on the door frame and Mr. Clinton answered. I went into the suite while Trooper Ferguson remained outside. Mr. Clinton shook my hand, invited me in, and closed the door. We talked for a few minutes. Mr. Clinton asked me about my job. He told me that Dave Harrington, who at the time was in charge of the AIDC, was his good friend. Mr. Clinton then unexpectedly reached over to me, took my hand, and pulled me toward him so that our bodies were close to each other. I removed my hand from his and retreated several feet. Mr. Clinton approached me again, saying, "I love the way your hair flows down your back, and I love your curves." While saying these things, Mr. Clinton put his hand on my leg and started sliding his hand down toward my pelvic area. I did not consent to him doing this. He also bent down to kiss me on the neck, but I would not let him do so. I exclaimed, "What are you doing?" and escaped from Mr. Clinton's reach by walking away from him. I was extremely upset and confused, and I did not know what to do. I tried to distract Mr. Clinton by asking him about his wife and her activities, and I sat down at the end of the sofa nearest to the door. Mr. Clinton then walked over to the sofa, lowered his trousers and underwear, exposed his penis, which was erect,
and told me to kiss it.
I was horrified by this. I jumped up from the couch and told Mr. Clinton that I had to go, saying something to the effect that I had to get back to my registration desk. Mr. Clinton, while fondling his penis, said, "Well, I don't want to make you do anything you don't want to do." Mr. Clinton then stood up, pulled up his pants, and said, "If you get in trouble for leaving work, have Dave call me immediately and I'll take care of it." As I left the room, Mr. Clinton detained me momentarily, looked sternly at me, and said, "You were smart. Let's keep this between ourselves."
Coercion.
When Mr. Clinton referred to Dave Harrington, I understood that he was telling me that he had control over Mr. Harrington and over my job, and that he was willing to use that power. From that point, I was very fearful that my refusal to submit to Mr. Clinton's advances could damage my career and even jeopardize my employment. Mr. Clinton's advances to me were unwelcome. I never said or did anything to suggest to Mr. Clinton that I was willing to have sex with him.
Paula wanted to prove the authenticity of her claims, so she actually offered to draw a picture of the president's penis for the investigators. And this is because it had a distinguishing mark. It had a dramatic curve. Did you know that? You never heard that?
No, honestly, okay, so I'm just gonna tell you my whole what I know about any of this is that Monica Lewinsky fellacioed um, President Clinton. That's all I know. I mean, I don't know
What about the cigar thing?
No.
You didn't hear the cigar thing?
No.
Oh my God. Well,
this was one thing that I didn't know if it was rumor or fact, but it was like gossip that spread that he had actually
penetrated her with the cigar.
Oh.
Well, I'll tell you in a little bit if that really happened or not. I mean,
no.
Anyway. Oh yeah, but anything, the fucking curved penis thing. It's funny because I didn't know that until we were watching impeachment, and Joe, my husband, he was the one that, like, ever since then he could not stop making dick jokes about Bill Clinton for like days and days. And apparently this was a huge like detail in the 90s that he was just like, oh man, all these jokes just came back to me. And I like, it was so funny because I was just like, dude, where are you coming up with all these, you know?
Right.
But anyway, so she actually did draw them a picture of it. And I mean, that's another thing that's debatable. Monica Lewinsky and the president's doctor claim that his penis did not have a curve, but I've also read that some other people have said that there was a curve. Personally, I don't know why Paula would make up a detail like that could be proven wrong. So, I mean, pretty easily, especially since she was not the only one who saw the president's penis, you know?
Okay, so inquiring minds want to know, did it curve sideways or up or down?
To the side. To the side.
Okay.
In the movie or in the show, she said something like, it had a sharp turn to the left or something like that.
Sharp turn to the left, you know what I'm saying?
The allegations were supposedly from 3 years ago. So the lawsuit came just 2 days before the expiration of the statute of limitations. So it seems like, you know, Paula was under a lot of pressure to decide whether or not to, and at the last minute decided. Especially since this article came out about her in January. Now it was like, fuck, now I really have to decide.
Right.
So let's put Paula Jones aside for a second. Meanwhile, at the White House, there was an employee named Linda Tripp. So Linda Tripp was a White House employee during the Bush administration. And she loved her job and she was super happy working under Bush, but she was not a fan of Bill Clinton. She found him crass and immoral, and she didn't like the way the White House was run after Bill Clinton was there. Like in the show, they portray it like a bunch of like teenagers are running the place, just like bumping hip hop in the White House and like eating pizza. But like either way, she loved working at the White House. It was like glamorous for her. But this blissful period for Linda came to a crashing halt when Vince Foster died by suicide. She had worked closely with Vince Foster, and she actually served him his final meal, which was a cheeseburger and M&Ms. Weird detail. And she was one of the last people to see him alive. She recalled that Vince Foster was leaving the office that day, and he told her that he would be back, but instead he went to a suburban Virginia park overlooking the Potomac River, and he shot himself in the head. So in the aftermath of his death, there were two events that further propelled Linda on her path towards betraying the White House. So first, she was introduced to somebody named Lucienne Goldberg, who was a literary agent. And I guess, how do I put this? Lucienne was like, without really saying it, seems like she wasn't a huge fan of Bill Clinton either, or at least she didn't mind talking about him.
Right. I mean, we don't know like how he comes off as isn't very likable.
Well, and that's the thing. In Linda's perspective, she worked under Bush, who she respected, and then Bill Clinton came in and like slept with all the young girls. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you'll see why she has more reason to believe this. So yeah, first she met Lucienne Goldberg, and Linda was kind of like, she really wanted to write a book about Vince Foster and his death. And she kind of like implied that it was suspicious, that she thought it was suspicious.
But then the other thing that happened around the same time was that Linda got fired from her dream job. Right? She didn't get fired. She got moved to the Pentagon. And apparently this was like a higher paying job and everything, but it was like a cold gray cubicle instead of like the warm glowing White House, you know? It wasn't glamorous. So she felt like banished. And it's basically because like somebody who was working above her left and the person who replaced them was like, I don't like her. They were quoted as calling her abrasive and overbearing and literally was like, I don't like her. Get rid of her. And she was relocated. So that happened in the summer of 1994. So as if Linda wasn't salty before, now she's really salty. So she was starting to see the White House as these like dream killers who banished their loyal staffers and were letting little frat bros take over. And with the death of Vince Foster, she was like getting louder and louder about her speculations about his death being suspicious and kind of pointing the finger at the Clintons. So within 2 years of her working at the Pentagon, she would be joined by an office mate who was also rejected from the White House. This was Monica Lewinsky. So Monica Lewinsky was raised in Beverly Hills. Her parents separated when she was 14 years old, and she always had a very difficult relationship with her dad, but she was very close with her mom. Monica loved to perform, like in school plays, and she loved singing, but she struggled with her weight her entire life, especially as a teenager. When she was 18, she got the attention of a 40-year-old man named Andy Blyler, who was married, and he happened to be the drama tech at her high school.
So that, that's another thing that's like, she was 18 and he was her high school drama. So like, how long did he wait? Anyway.
Right.
It was a hard time for Monica to grow up with weight issues in Beverly Hills, if you could imagine. And Andy made her feel beautiful and sensual and wanted.
And this was the beginning, like this was the first relationship where she could actually like explore being passionate. This was the first time that she felt sexy, Speaking of married men, Monica has said, like after everything, that she'll never have an affair with a married man again. But she actually says herself that she's come to see that she didn't have enough sense of self-worth and kind of didn't ever feel like she could be number one to a man. So she would just settle for what came. So Monica Lewinsky, interestingly, was not interested in politics at all. She actually got the opportunity to work at the White House as an intern. It was a family friend that hooked her up with it, and she was just trying to get away from Andy, and this was a really good opportunity. So she got this internship at the White House, which was unpaid, and she was working under the Chief of Staff, Leon Panetta. So she moved to Washington, D.C. and took up the position in July of 1995. And then in December 1995, she started a paid position. So at this time, Monica was only 22 years old, and she was a very romantic and passionate kind of person. She didn't realize at first, like she wasn't originally attracted to the president. In fact, I saw an interview where she was saying how some other young girl, like another intern, was like fangirling over him. She was just like, what the fuck? And then when he came into the room, it was like, boom, like this guy was like charming and demanded attention, and he would give you what she called the full Bill Clinton, which was like, he would like gaze into your eyes and shake your hand like longer than just being polite, like he'd be like extra friendly. And she was just like, oh my God, he makes me feel so important and loved, So like, that was the thing that he came into the room and she was like, oh my God, like he's like this movie star who just makes everybody feel important, Going forward, Monica describes various public events where she and the president would see each other like this, like across the room, and make eye contact. And she would call it like a really intense eye contact. Like it would be like at a conference or like some random ceremony, and they would be across the room and just like stare at each other intensely. And it started becoming like intense. It started becoming like flirty and passionate. At one point, Monica told her mom, I think I have a crush on the president.
At this point, they have never spoken to each other yet. The first time they actually spoke to each other was on November 15th, 1995, during a government shutdown. Basically, because of the shutdown, it was like they had all the interns doing administrative work. It was like there weren't enough adults, so they had all the kids doing grown-up work. And like this was literally when the interns were like bumping rap music and eating pizza like in the White House. And like they have interns like walking around with nuclear codes and shit. So Monica found herself in the Chief of Staff's office alone, and Bill Clinton kind of wandered in. And like I said, by this point, they had kind of just been doing this back and forth with eye contact and flirty looks.
She saw him there and she like wanted to make the next move. So she kind of like lifted the back of her jacket and like revealed like her thong strap.
Oh.
And just kind of
just let it show. And he like, you know, he knows what she's doing. So it's like very much like this little dance we're doing, you know?
So after this, Monica was on her way to the bathroom and she walked past the office of George Stephanopoulos, and Bill Clinton was in the office alone and allegedly called her in. So she went and introduced herself, and she just like got nervous and blurted out that she had a crush on him. And apparently he laughed and then he kissed her.
He's like,
right. So then he asked her if she would like to see his private office and invited her back that evening. He led her to another room through a connecting door where they talked, and it became clear that they were mutually attracted to each other. And then he asked if he could kiss her, and she said yes. And then she gave him her name and her phone number before she went back to work.
Like he didn't already have access to all of that.
Right?
He's like, bitch, I know where you've lived. Every place you've lived.
It's the kind of thing where it's like, here's my number, and here's my work number, and here's my locker number.
He's like, yeah, I have your social. So
here's my fax. Here's my old Hotmail, just in case you can't reach me on the new one.
My AOL.
Anyway, so the second time they had an encounter was just a couple days later on November 17th. Bill Clinton actually took a phone call during their sexual encounter from sorry. So like he's on the phone with the representative of Alabama.
He's on the phone with Alabama.
And while he's getting head from Monica Lewinsky. But so on this, what's interesting about this encounter, he unbuttoned his shirt and she recalls that he actually like sucked in his stomach. And she found it so endearing because she was struggling with her weight, you know? So like after that, they kind of like bonded over that, and like he knew she was struggling. So like he would try to say sweet things like, oh, you've lost weight, or like, oh, you look really nice today.
No. Okay. I don't know how to feel about this.
Fun fact, they would have 6 sexual encounters, parentheses, blowjobs, before they had an actual conversation of more than 5 or 10 minutes. Throughout all of these encounters, Monica gave him various gifts, starting with like a tie, and he would give her a lot of small gifts as well. On January 7th, 1996, he spotted her and invited her into the Oval Office. She was in mid-sentence when he lifted her shirt and they had another sexual encounter. She was in mid-sentence. But I guess it doesn't matter, does it?
It does.
Shirt's off, Monica.
She's like, well, why do I even use words?
Right.
So now, about 2 months after meeting, now around their 5th encounter, Monica asked if this was just about sex or if he had any interest in getting to know her. According to Monica, he started to tear up, and he said that he never wanted her to think that that's not what this was about. He told her that she lit up a room, and he was drawn to her energy.
You know what? That might be true.
But how many people has he said that to, I wonder?
Right. And on cue, he just teared up.
Oh, right. Okay, so it's like Barney Stinson, right? Sorry. So during their encounters, just to clarify things, she would often give him oral sex, but he would never climax. I guess he thought it was too personal and they just weren't there yet. But both of them, I guess both of them didn't consider the oral sex to be sex. They considered it messing around.
Oh, so they were just making out?
No, they were giving blowjobs, but they just...
That's what I'm saying. He's like, it's a little personal.
Sex.
You kiss me where I pee, but I'm not going to come because that's a little personal.
The funny thing, they never got fully undressed in any of these encounters.
Huh. Did he ever do anything to her?
Oh, that's a good question. It will be a question in the investigation, so I'll get to that. But a few things about when they would hook up in the Oval Office. So it was like he had a back door in the Oval Office that would go out into a hallway. And then the hallway would have like a bathroom on one side and then like a study on the other. So they would often go into this little hallway or into the study or the bathroom to hook up, but they couldn't ever shut the door. So the door was always just like cracked open. So that's why they never got undressed and they never fully had sex. You know, it was always just something where they could just like, it was like foreplay, you know what I mean? Like where they could just throw their clothes back on like real quick. And like, he would be like, oh, bye, you know, and like, see you later. Talk to her like a week later, you know?
Huh.
Yeah. So he doesn't climax for the first like 8 blowjobs, telling her that he doesn't know her well enough.
On February 19th, 1996, Bill Clinton suddenly breaks up with Monica, telling her that he's like starting to get uncomfortable with all this because he's had these affairs before, but they're not even affairs. They're like, he sexually harasses a woman once or twice, you know, and this has been going on for months with her now, a few months. So he kind of breaks it off with her. But then on March 29th, just like a month later, he calls her and invites her to watch a movie together. And she declined it, which I can imagine couldn't have been easy for her. But then on March 31st, just like 2 days later, he called her to visit the Oval Office on the pretext of delivering papers, and they hook up again. So they just like started back up again. They start hooking up again like nothing ever happened. And as they become more and more intimate, Monica started to fall in love with him. And the president kept telling her that she was special to him. In fact, he gave her a pretty special gift. He gave her a hat pin, and he also gave her the book Leaves of Grass, which seemed like really, really special. But it turns out that this was also the same first gift he gave to Hillary.
Monica didn't know that at the time, but...
Okay, that kind of makes me feel like he probably did actually have feelings for her. But he's the president.
Or at least he wanted her to think that.
Well, that's the interesting thing. Like I said, he has assaulted women before, not giving a fuck, but he's actually trying to tell this woman that she's special, you know, and like seeing the same woman over and over again and getting her gifts. And she bought him ties, and he wore the ties like publicly at events. So she like kept getting the sense of like, he loves me, you know? So about 5 months into their affair, Monica was suddenly transferred to go work at the Pentagon. It's interesting because you would think that this was Bill, but actually Bill didn't know. In fact, what happened was the staffers were like seeing too much of her, and it was like, hold on, let me read this. It says, this was in the Starr Report. It says, White House staff members were noticing how often Monica Lewinsky was around the president and the Oval Office, and they said it was an optics problem, though no one explicitly stated that they believed they were having an affair. So here's what Monica knew about it. On April 5th, 96, Timothy Keating, the staff director for legislative affairs, informed Miss Lewinsky that she would have to leave her White House job. According to Miss Lewinsky, he told me I was too sexy to be working in the East Wing and that this job at the Pentagon where I'd be writing press releases was a sexier job. It's like all these men want to be in pornos, you know? During this time, Bill Clinton was in the middle of his re-election campaign, so he was already going days or weeks at a time without calling Monica. So this really bummed Monica out. And Bill didn't even know what happened to her, but like as if it was really a problem that, you know, she wasn't hanging around all the time, you know. So she would call him up and be like, dude, I've been transferred, like, help me get my job back at the White House. And he basically promised, like, I promise we're going to figure this out. But you know what? I have to focus on the election. So once I get reelected, you can have any job at the White House that you want. So she just like clung to this, that she just needs to get through to the end of the election. So this is April 96. So she's got to wait till like November.
Right. And we all know how this panned out.
Yeah, but let me just tell you, just in case.
So a month had passed and he called her one night because she couldn't call him. She had to fucking sit up and wait for him to call. So now she doesn't work with him. She literally like can't see him or get in touch with him until he calls her. So a month passed and he called her one night and she said, well, I'm really unhappy, you know. And he said, I don't want to talk about your job tonight. I'll call you this week and then we'll talk about it. I want to talk about other things, which meant phone sex. So she expected that like within the following week they were going to talk, but he didn't call her. They continued their relationship over like the next few months, basically over the phone and just like having phone sex all the time. And during one conversation, Monica told the president that she wanted to have intercourse with him, and he responded that he couldn't do that because of the possible consequences. They argued, and then he asked her, "Should I stop calling you?" And she said no.
Possible consequences as in she might get pregnant, or they could get caught, or probably both.
Probably that he could get in big trouble because he's president. I don't know. So anyway, so now Monica goes to work at the Pentagon, and that's where she met Linda Tripp. So Monica and Linda had something unique in common, and that was that they both worked at the White House, which was like big and shiny and warm, and then were rejected and banished to go work at the Pentagon. Like I said, at this point, Monica was 22 and Linda was about 24 years older than her. But they started hanging out and having lunch together and talking on the phone all the time because they had this in common, you know? And they just didn't feel like they fit in with everybody else at the Pentagon.
Right.
So Monica eventually ended up confiding in Linda about her secret relationship with the president. Of course, she doesn't know that Linda is just looking to take the president down. So Linda's all ears. Monica was really struggling because she never saw the president anymore. So she would like vent a lot to Linda. But whenever she did talk to the president, he would assure her that it's just the election keeping them apart and that as soon as it was over, all of her doubts would be restored. Throughout this whole period of time that they weren't together, like physically, they would end up having roughly 50 phone conversations, during many of which they engaged in phone sex. The day of the election finally came, November 5th, 1996, and Monica waited up all night for his call, and it never came. But that wasn't like the end of it for Monica. She kept trying. She would like try to show up at like public events that he was at and just try to get noticed. She would like show up early so she could be in the front, and she would try to wear like a nice outfit to get his attention. On Valentine's Day in 1997, she like took out an ad in the Washington Post that was like a little Valentine's Day note, like a secret love note to the president that said, "With love's light wings did I approach these walls, for stony limits cannot hold love out, and what love can do that dares love attempt."
Romeo and Juliet. Yeah, I don't fucking get it.
I love that you just stared off into space.
I know. I studied theater and I fucking hated Shakespeare because I dissociate. I dissociated through that whole part of college.
I love Shakespeare.
Good. Then I hope that meant something to you. I'll send you that note this Valentine's Day. That exact one.
So throughout this time that she wasn't really able to be with Bill Clinton, she did actually kind of date another guy on the side. I guess that's not really on the side because her and Bill weren't really together. But she did talk to this other guy, and she described him as a guy named Thomas who worked at the Pentagon. She ended up becoming pregnant and got an abortion, and she really, really suffered throughout this and ended up going to therapy. Because she was still like really in love with Bill Clinton, and she didn't end up telling him about the pregnancy or the abortion. So she just kind of like suffered in silence through this abortion and through like missing him and wanting to talk to him. And unfortunately, she wasn't in love with Thomas, and she couldn't stop thinking about the president. So she continued to appear at these events, and there's actually like videos and pictures of this where like, oh my God, she's like, you can see her just swooning, but he's also like all starry-eyed and giving her so much attention. People would call Monica a stalker for this, but in her mind, like, he wasn't avoiding her. She wasn't like trying so hard like people said. He just didn't have the time or the opportunity to be with her because of his campaign in her head. So she just thought that if they wanted to be together, she was the one that had to show up wherever he was because he was the president. He was busy.
Right.
So it's really sad. Everybody made her out to be this like huge stalker, but that's not how it went in her perspective. Like I said, she did everything she could to get his attention, including like one day she got his attention. So the next day she ran home on her lunch break and put on the exact same outfit because she remembered that it caught his attention. Throughout this whole time, he kept promising that he was going to get her a job at the White House again. And then like the election came and went and nothing, you know? In February 1997, Monica attended the taping of Clinton's radio show, and she had her picture taken with him. He told her to go see Betty, who was his secretary, and then she took her over to the study that was next to the Oval Office, and then Betty, like, left her there and went to a nearby pantry. And she, like, waited in this pantry for, like, 15 minutes, because the thing was, Bill and Monica were about to have a sexual encounter, and it couldn't look like they were alone together. So Betty had to like go hide in a pantry to make it look like all three of them were together.
That's better.
Yeah. So on this date, they had their first sexual encounter in 11 months. This was about a year and a half into their affair. So throughout this whole almost a year, they've only been having phone sex. And this was also the first encounter where Bill Clinton actually ejaculated. But
they were fully dressed, so he ended up coming on her dress. It was a navy blue dress, and she didn't notice until afterwards when she went to dinner.
So here's another little excerpt from the Starr Report from this encounter. It says, "And then I wanted to perform oral sex on him, and so I did. And then I think he heard something or he heard someone in the office, so we moved into the bathroom, and I continued to perform oral sex, and then he pushed me away, kind of as he always did before he came. And then I stood up and said, I care about you so much. I don't understand why you won't let me make you come. It's important to me. I mean, it just doesn't feel complete. It doesn't seem right." Miss Lewinsky testified that she and the president hugged, and he said he didn't want to get addicted to me, and he didn't want me to get addicted to him. They looked at each other for a moment, and then saying that, "I don't want to disappoint you," the president consented. And for the first time, she performed oral sex through completion. Can you, like, I'm sorry, how manipulative is that to be like, I don't want to push you. I don't know if you're not ready, you know? And then it's like, well, you convinced me. I guess you can give me a blowjob. You know?
I don't understand. Is he, I guarantee you, he's like
and
terrified.
She's like, please, let me get off. Sorry. What did you say? I'm sorry.
I guarantee you, he's like terrified to actually fuck her because he is fucking Hillary Clinton, which I'm sorry, but
okay.
Maybe we'll take that
well, I mean, without like saying anything about Hillary, it's such a like stereotype of this wanting a young girl in her 20s, you know? And it's just, you know, like, I don't know. We'll talk about Hillary in a little bit.
Because I think she is relevant to all this too, but
did they talk about their sex life? Him and Hillary?
It's touched upon. It's touched upon, yes.
Okay.
So here's the thing. So that blue dress that Monica had with the president's cum on it, one day Monica and Linda were hanging out, and Linda found out about the dress because she saw it in Monica's apartment, and I guess Monica like didn't have the chance to get it dry cleaned yet. So Linda instantly called up her literary agent, Lucienne Goldberg, and Lucienne was like, first of all, tell Monica not to wash that dress and keep it for evidence. And she convinces her because she basically tells her, like, what if it comes out and nobody believes you, you know? So they're like, she's like, you should keep it. But then Lucienne also tells Linda that she should start recording her phone calls with her. So she did. She started recording their phone calls in September of 1997. Throughout this, the president continued leading her on, going weeks and weeks without calling her, and then appearing like just as she was about to move on from him. And he would like make excuses, like always saying that he was just too busy because he was the president. Or like I said before, he didn't want to get addicted to her. And eventually she actually told him that she loved him. And he said, that means a lot to me.
That hurts.
That is so fucked up. Okay.
Yeah.
After the encounter where the president climaxed with Monica, he was seemingly feeling really guilty, like as if ejaculating made the whole thing even more real to him. So on March 29, 1997, they hooked up and he climaxed again, but this would be the last time.
On Saturday, May 24th, 1997, according to Monica, the president ended their intimate relationship. Here's another excerpt from the Starr Report.
According to Miss Lewinsky, the president explained that they had to end their intimate relationship. Earlier in his marriage, he told her he had hundreds of affairs, but since turning 40, he had made a concerted effort to be faithful. He said he was attracted to Miss Lewinsky, considered her a great person, and hoped that they would remain friends. He pointed out that he could do a great deal for her. The situation, he stressed, was not Miss Lewinsky's fault. Miss Lewinsky, weeping, tried to persuade the president not to end the sexual relationship, but he was unyielding, then and subsequently. Although she and the president kissed and hugged thereafter, according to Miss Lewinsky, the sexual relationship was over. But yeah, basically after this, they would no longer have any kind of sexual encounter, but they did kiss. Like they would hug and kiss, like intimate kisses.
It's only cheating if you come.
Now his dick's in his pants, so it's like, what are you talking about?
Right.
But Monica, in one interview, she said that when he broke up with her this time, he actually cried. So to her, that indicated that this was really hard for him and he was really going to miss her. And like, it made him more like real to her, you know? Mm-hmm.
So he cried while breaking up with her?
Mm-hmm. Because at this point, it's been like more than a year and a half, almost 2 years.
You know, it would be one thing if they actually genuinely like dated each other and
well, that's what she thinks.
Yeah.
And that I think that's what he wants her to think. So for the next few months, Monica just kept sitting around waiting for that phone call that she was getting her job back, because he was like, you know, I'm still going to help you with this. But she was over the top. She blew up the White House phones. And like, I saw this one interview where Betty, the secretary, was like, or no, I think it was in the Starr Report actually, where she said something like, you know, at first, like, I didn't mind her. And I really thought that I thought of her as like a woman who was being wrong. But then little by little, she was just like, she would call me crying and sobbing because the president wasn't answering his phone like day after day, and like just trying to send him gifts all the time. And like, yeah, I can imagine like how that could get frustrated when you're the president's secretary and this girl keeps calling, like crying like that, you know?
Right.
So she didn't hear from him for a while, so she ended up sending him an angry letter. So he agreed to see her on July 4th, and initially he like scolded her like, you can't send a letter like that to the president. Like, so she started crying and she got emotional, and he started hugging her and he became really affectionate with her. She said that he said that he wished he had more time for her. Okay, hold on. Let me read this. He remarked that he wished he had more time for me. And so I said, well, maybe you will have more time in 3 years. And I was thinking just when he wasn't president, he was going to have some more time on his hands. And he said, well, I don't know. I might be alone in 3 years. And then I said something about us sort of being together. And I think I said, oh, I think we'd be a good team or something like that. And he jokingly said, well, what are we going to do when I'm 75 and I have to pee 25 times a day? And I told him that we'd deal with that. So even, you know what I mean? He breaks up with her and then he tells her shit. Like, he hasn't spoken to her in months, right. So she sends him an angry letter and he's like, oh, well, when we're 75, you know?
Or maybe that's his way of like being like, yeah,
leading her
I'm
on?
too old for you, but like jokingly. And
well, why would he tell her, oh, I don't know, I might be alone in 3 years? Like, she's only 22, you know, she can wait around for you, you know?
Right.
I don't know, I think that's so mean.
Oh,
anyway.
For sure.
So Monica testified that she left that day sort of emotionally stunned, and she said, I just knew he was in love with me. Just before leaving, according to Miss Lewinsky, she said, I told the president that I wanted to talk to him about something serious, and that while I didn't want to be the one to talk about this with him, I thought it was important that he know. So basically, she told him that she had heard that another woman was coming forward with allegations against him. So, I know this is a long, long list of characters, but this is where Catherine Willey comes in, and don't worry, we won't go too in detail about Catherine Willey. But basically, Catherine Willey was friends with Linda Tripp, or at least, like, they worked together. So, according to Willey, during an afternoon meeting on November 29th, 1993, they were in the private study of the Oval Office, and Clinton embraced her tightly, kissed her on the lips, grabbed her breast, and forced her hand on his genital. So this is another thing that it's like, for sure they hooked up. I mean, by all accounts, except Bill's, pretty much. But whether or not it was consensual, it was up in the air. Linda's a huge backstabber, but she would say under oath that Willey's sexual contact with the president was consensual. She said that Catherine Willey had been flirting with the president and was happy and excited following their encounter. 6 other friends of Willey's confirmed Linda's account, saying that Willey was seeking out a sexual relationship with the president.
Right. So she is saying, she's trying to say...
Oh, I think they really did hook up, but then...
Yeah, which either way, the president, he's not supposed to hook up with people and then lie about it, But it seems like she was just jumping on, I mean, this is my opinion. It seems like she was jumping on the train of calling him out, even though
she probably thought he was hot and was into him like these other interns,
Well, that's the thing is,
which, not to talk trash about them, but I think Catherine Willie saw him hooking up with girls and she was like, I'm going to be next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of what I think. I think that just based on like what we know about Monica Lewinsky, like they flirted heavily, like there was obviously a mutual connection. So she ended up in that Oval Office study somehow. He didn't drag her in there.
Yeah.
Not like Paula Jones. I definitely believe Paula Jones when she says it, and not to say that Catherine Willie's a liar. It's just, I mean, Linda and 6 other friends confirmed that she was seeking out a relationship, which, that doesn't mean that the president's even more right or wrong. It's irrelevant. The point is the president hooked up with another woman in 1993, while all these other women are claiming this kind of thing. So regardless of a woman, it is showing a pattern in the president here,
Right. Which, I mean, what is the president going to turn you down if you consent? Like, no, he wants ass, he's like, oh no, I'm not raping you. Let's not, no, I'm sure he's not, this isn't just to call him a rapist. You know what I mean? The fact that it is, he's into young girls.
Yeah.
Outside of his marriage.
Right. And honestly, that's between him and his wife. I don't think that should be
bingo
anyone's business.
Yeah. I mean, the problem here is the perjury, but we digress.
So anyway, Linda was friends with Catherine, and it's kind of a long story. What happened was, remember when we were talking about Paula Jones? She was the one who came out with the first allegations in 1994. So now we're in like 1997, and Paula Jones's lawyers are basically trying to reveal a pattern in the president in like assaulting or sexually harassing White House employees. These lawyers, since they're looking for people to go after, they end up like, a bunch of people end up getting like subpoenaed in the Paula Jones case. So long story short, Linda finds out about Catherine Willie coming forward with the allegations, and Linda tells Monica. So Monica goes to warn the president. Now the problem here is that Monica is not supposed to tell anybody about her relationship with the president. So it's like, why would anybody warn Monica about Catherine Willie? Like, why would Monica even know about this, So the president's like, of course I know about Catherine Willie. Why do you know about Catherine Willie?
Right, exactly.
So Monica's like, I didn't tell anybody,
It wasn't me. Call me Jackie.
Right. So little by little, they end up connecting that Linda Tripp is the common denominator here. She's the one who knows both she's the one who knows both Catherine and Monica. And she's the only one who could possibly know fucking everybody. So, Newsweek published the her name's not Catherine, it's Kathleen. My bad. Newsweek published the Kathleen Willie story in their August 11th, 97 edition. And the article quoted Linda as saying that Kathleen, after leaving the Oval Office on the day of the president's alleged advances, looked disheveled, flustered, happy, and joyful.
Huh?
But yeah, because she was happy to hook up with the president. Kathleen was. So she looked disheveled, flustered, happy. She probably looked like her hair in a mess and her face is hot, just like post-orgasm, Yeah, she's probably like,
So did he actually have sex with her?
Well, like I said, it said that he touched her breasts and pulled her close to him. You don't remember? What did I say?
Yeah, no, I remember that, but I didn't know if I missed something.
Oh, okay. He embraced her tightly, kissed her on the lips, grabbed her breasts, and forced her hand on his genitals. So it was probably like a really heavy makeout sesh where they're just like groping each other.
And maybe it's because it was one of those things where it's like you have 15 seconds before somebody comes into the room. Anyway, the article also quoted Robert Bennett, which I believe was one of the presidents on his legal team. He was quoted as saying that Linda Tripp was not to be believed. So that's where it became hard because, like, in my opinion, like that could be truthful, but it's hard to believe Linda now because nobody likes her.
Right.
And like, yeah, she's got this reputation for being a backstabber who recorded her friend. But anyway, on August 16th, 1997, Monica tried unsuccessfully to resume her sexual relationship with the president. She touched the president's genitals through his pants, and she moved down to perform oral sex, but he rebuffed her. He said, "I'm trying not to do this, and I'm trying to be good." And she said that he got visibly upset. So she hugged him, and she said that she was sorry and told him not to be upset. Later, she had written numerous notes that she never sent to him. They were like drafts she had written, and one of them said, "Handsome, it was awful when I saw you for your birthday in August. You were so distant that I missed you as I was holding you in my arms." So like I said, it was in about September 97 when Linda started recording her phone conversations with Monica. Around this same time, Linda kind of called Monica up and was like, "Monica, I've got some bad news. I hate to tell you this, but I have a friend who works in the White House, and it turns out that your name is blacklisted, and unfortunately, you're never going to work in the White House again."
And Monica's like, yeah, good question. But it's kind of like I said, the White House staffers, multiple people, were the ones that were
them or him.
Well, at the same time, it could be untrue. It could just be Linda being a bitch.
Oh, I see.
I don't know if that part's true, but nonetheless, Monica is just enraged at this point. This was the straw that broke the camel's back. And she was actually considering moving to New York, moving away, but this was it. She was like, "Fuck this," So yeah, she freaks out on the president, and they the president actually tells Betty "No, you're going to call up so-and-so and get her a job." So they end up reaching out to his friend and trusted advisor named Vernon Jordan, and he would end up helping Monica get a job because he was a trusted advisor for multiple companies, and he eventually got her a job in New York with the Revlon Corporation. Linda started recording the phone calls in September, and in October, she played the tapes for Lucienne Goldberg, her literary agent, and her son, who I guess was also a reporter or agent of some kind, as well as a reporter from Newsweek named Michael Isikoff. But Newsweek ended up opting not to move forward with the story. So they're making plans as to what, now they're the first people to listen to the tape and see if it's worth it to go forward and do something about it. And then in November of 97, Linda was subpoenaed in the Paula Jones case, and she named Monica as a potential witness. So this is now all drawing everybody into the Paula Jones case. Okay, just in case, this is where we're going to take a break, because it's going to get really into the legal mumbo jumbo going forward. Okay, so we'll be right back and re-record the next part of this. Just stay tuned. Don't forget that you can always check brokenlimelight.com, and there will be updates up there and an almost complete transcript, as well as a full list of the sources. So, yeah, stay tuned. If you have any questions, go on our Facebook, and you can always reach out to us there, or you can also leave a comment on brokenlimelight.com. Or if you want to send us a specific question or information or more sources, you can email me at ddwest@brokenlimelight.com. Okay, anything else you want to say, Summer?
No, I think we're good. I'm excited for the next part.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
It said, "Handsome, with love's light wings, did I o'er-perch these walls? For stony limits cannot hold love out, and what love can do that dares love attempt." I should have just not even read that.
that was botched. Is that an actual poem, or did she just take it upon herself?
So let me just say, it's a poem from Romeo and Juliet, and then it says, "Happy Valentine's Day, M." There was no punctuation in that, and I don't know if that was my fault or what.
Although love's stony wall.
Let me try again. Hold on. There's capitalization.
I guess she thought it was spinach dip or something, and she was like, "Oh shit, this is the president's semen."
She licked it off. She's like, "Oh, it's salty."
Oh God, why did you say that?
I thought it was spinach dip. Was it green?
Oh, fuck you. Was it green? Oh my God.
I found an article, and and it says it's from the Los Angeles Times. And it was like, she was saying we would tell jokes, we would talk about our childhoods, talk about current events. I was giving him my stupid ideas about what I thought should be done in the administration or different views on things. And then, like, I never expected to fall in love with the president. I was surprised that I did.
Well, because like, imagine, like, if it were just me and I'm not interested in politics at all, and I go do this, and I just think the guy is hot, you know, like, you can imagine, like, yeah, maybe like just a little hookup, and we're gonna flirt a few times, but like, I don't think you pictured that, you know, that I'm gonna fall in love with him, and like,
right,
you know?
Exactly. And then it says, but there was another side to it as well: the groping, blouse open, zipper down, oral sex while leaning against a wall moments, followed by the "do you remember my name" moments, the married man's time stained "maybe we can be together someday" lines, the belated efforts to convince each other it was more than sex, the posturing, deception, anger, and betrayal. Did you see this? So I'm on CNN, and it talks, Bill Clinton says he feels terrible that affair has unfairly defined Monica Lewinsky's life. He said that he feels terrible the affair has defined the former White House intern's life, and seeks to explain the sexual relationship as something he did to manage his anxieties for years. It says, asked why he entered the relationship, he said he did it to cope with the pressure, disappointments, and fears of life. This reminds me of R. Kelly. I just want to like put that out there.
Oh, I'm probably going to lose some people over this episode, which I hope. I try to be unbiased, but fuck, I mean,
how can you? No, you can't be unbiased.
Sometimes people love them so much that they don't want to hear anything but praise. Yeah, you know, even if I'm not directly bashing people. But anyway, sometimes it's like if I lose people on episodes about like R. Kelly and Woody Allen and Bill Clinton, like maybe that's not such a loss. I mean, maybe, you know, maybe you're not my audience, and maybe you're not what I ordered either, you know?
Right, exactly. The thing is I think with what you're covering, you're not covering just regular people. You're covering people who were well known and who did have a following, and people who love them, and they just won't see it any other way, you know?
And I'm not telling people not to like people either, because for one, like, I'm a very big classic rock fan, and then I found out just how many of these rock stars were alleged like pedophiles, you know? So I mean, like I get Presley? It. It's really hard. A lot of them, and Michael Jackson's another one, man. That one hurts, and I think that hurts a lot of people. I think I'm personally not ready to talk about that yet. Not to say that I condone anything. I'm just not giving my opinion yet. You know, I can't say the wrong thing, and I'm going to lose people.
Right.
I'll lose you over Michael later.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on Michael Jackson, because it's like I love him, but also like I don't like pedophiles, and it's so hard because what do we believe, you know? And we don't.
He is one that's hard for a lot of people to grasp. You know, that's one that it's hard. We don't want to believe it, you know. So one day I will cover that, and I promise I'll do my best to find out, you know, everything. what's true. I'll try to be unbiased, because I don't want to believe it, but I also am not one to fucking not tell you guys if it's true, you know?
I ain't gonna not do it.
You have to watch Pam and Tommy. Pam
and Tommy. No. That's actual fucking name. No, it was Tom and Pammy.
Tam and Tommy.
That's how often I.
Anyway, super good. I've got to cover that one.
Yeah, I started watching it. Something happened. I fell asleep and it started playing. I think it skipped over like 3 episodes, so I have to figure out where I was. But
I'm sorry. For the people listening, go watch Pam and Tommy. Seth Rogen he plays Rand. What's it called? What's his name? Rand Gautier, I think.
Something.
He is like, he's the carpenter who steals the sex tape from Pam and Tommy, and man, he's good in that role. Like, he's very different, not his usual goofy self, you know. He's very like I guess, serious in this role, but he plays it off so well.
Yeah, and it's so funny because like being a Seth Rogen fan, like I watch him and I watch his facial expressions and I'm waiting for like a joke and it doesn't come.
What's interesting is that they've made you kind of like feel bad for him, and I'd like to look into all that, you know?
I would like to know how much of this show is actually completely true, because I was reading an article that I almost said Pam either, I don't know if it's a book or if it's another show that actually depicts like the story better. So it makes me wonder if it's not
I'll look it up.
True. Like completely
I like
true,
to,
you know what I mean?
yeah, I would like to see if there is, I'm sure there is a memoir by Pam.
Another thing that kind of threw both of us off of this show was when his dick was talking to him in the mirror.
Tommy Lee?
Yeah.
Okay, but that was so on character.
Yes, but it gave me such Bruno vibes that I just couldn't like take it seriously. Bruno, have you seen Bruno, the movie? Yeah. Where his dick like, Bruno!
Oh my God. Anyway,
it was a little hard to take serious after that.
The story is really good. Like, I watched it to the end and it like made me cry. And it's like, maybe their relationship would have worked out if not for this whole thing. Maybe not, because he was still kind of a monster, but you know, maybe they would have broken up for something else and not something like her being exploited like that. What's that face for? You reading stuff? Goodbye.
Bye. Bye, guys.
Wait, bye. Was that?
See you in the next part.
Was that a delay?
Yeah.
Bark box, bark box, bark box, bark box. You guys know my dogs, Jude and Eleanor Rigby. Well, we just started getting them bark box, and I'm telling you, your dogs will love you. No more are they angry at the mailman. No more, I say. It's like a box of dog joy that's delivered every month, and each box tells a different story with different themed toys, treats, and photo-worthy props. Typically, what we get in each box is a couple of toys, a couple of treats, and a chew, but you can actually tailor fit your box to fit your dog's needs. Guys, I'm telling you, your dogs will love you, even more than they already do. So try it out, and if you use my link, you'll get a free extra month of BarkBox, which is a $35 value. So just head to barkbox.com/brokenlimelight and get started on your first BarkBox today. BarkBox, 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 BarkBox. Nailed it, Jude.